this is being recorded. I'm going to continue. So welcome everyone. My name is Kathryn MacCallum, and I'll just need to change my screen so you can see me on the screen. I'm an Associate Professor of Digital Education at Canterbury University, so that's New Zealand. And today I'm just presenting an interactive workshop around how we can integrate augmented reality and virtual reality into the classroom with a specific focus on student-created experiences. So I know that there is a lot of different applications out there where students can engage in these type of experiences, and they're generally pre-created. My focus is actually looking at how students can create their own experiences and therefore make the learning across the curriculum. So let's see. Yeah, so David's just said if you would like to put your videos on, that's be great. As I said, this is a interactive session, so there will be a few things that I'm going to ask you. I'll just talk about the session structure in a minute. But while we get started, this is the first little activity before I talk about what we're actually covering. So I've said where I am. So I'm down in New Zealand. So this is why most of you might be interacting in this conference. I've actually been asleep, so I'm still waking up a little bit. So it's at 8 o'clock at the moment here, so it's not too bad, but I did have to get here a little bit earlier to work. So what I'd like you to do is, if you can, on your device, so your screen or your mobile device, if you put it, type in the text polev.com/mobilemE, you will actually see this interactive map, and you can actually pin yourself onto the map just so we know what different countries you have come from. So pop in, oops, sorry. I'm not sure if you can see that now that I've moved that. So pole.ev.com/mobilemE. So I see someone's managed to do it, another New Zealander. So if you click on the map, it'll be able to pin yourself into that. So I'll give you a few minutes, but so we'll be using Pole everywhere for a few activities. So if you put it onto your phone, there's this activity, and then the next activity will also use the same thing and it'll automatically refresh. So if you are doing live interaction, I quite like this tool, though. There we go. So getting some dots, that's great. So we've got someone from America, India. This is going to show my geography up a little bit. So let's see if we can get a few more pins. So the UK. Great. So just a reminder about this activity. So we do have the chat, so feel free to add comments into the chat. I'll see that there's a few on there. So the CoSpaces Edu app, yes, that's correct. That is the same. Cool. So then thank you, David, for putting the URL in there. So we've got a few more people in America. Yep, so you can clear the dot. You don't have to get it quite exact. It's a little bit awkward in a small screen especially. So, oh, actually, that's Canada. Sorry. Sorry. All right, great. All right, so I'm going to move on. Okay, so yeah, 4 a.m. in Delhi. So Ramesh, you actually beat me because it's actually a lot earlier. So thank you very much for waking up at such a ridiculous time. All right, so moving on. Okay, let's see if I can. Okay, so the workshop, as I said, we are going to be basically working in 3 sections. So the first section, I'm going to quickly talk a little bit about what AR and VR is, okay, and specifically looking at this term mixed reality, which is an umbrella. What I use is an umbrella term for that, the connection between AR and VR. And then we're going to look at some tools that you can use with your students to create their own MR experience. And then I'm actually going to give you an opportunity to create your own. So that's the 3 sections. What I'm going to do probably is break in between. So we do have a 3-hour session here. It might not go for 3 hours. It depends on how long you take with the hands-on. But what we'll do is we'll start each section. I'll introduce it and talk through it, and then we'll have a break and we'll go into the next section. With the hands-on activity, there's actually 3 activities that you can do. And you can choose which one. So we're going to actually go into breakout rooms, and you can actually go into which one you would like to engage on. And I'll just talk about what those 3 activities are in the end. Having said that, you can also access them later on. So the instructions and the slide set is also available if you would like it. Just let me know. So that's the focus of the workshop. So as I said, we're going to first start with the affordances of AR and VR for education. But before I get fully into this, are there any questions, anything? Looks like the chat is okay. So welcome everyone to this. So this workshop is looking at, as I said, creating your own experiences. And so I use this term mixed reality as an umbrella term. So if you did come to the last presentation, we talked about this continuum, a mixed reality continuum. So what you have is AR on one side, and the other side is your virtual reality, and you've got a continuum between that. And that's mixed reality, because what you have is a blur between what is actually originally considered as AR and what you would consider as VR. So on the extremes, you've got AR. AR is where you have a real environment and a digital overlay. So Pokemon Go, if you ever played with that, that was pretty much where AR became a bit more well known. And so you had the little Pokemon that you had to engage in the real environment. But it is being used quite a lot in education to some extent, and where you have real environments and you can engage with them. So for example, like a geo-tour where students go out into a real environment and they learn about the environment with that digital overlay. On the other side, you've got virtual reality. So you've got a virtual environment that is disconnected usually from that physical environment. So that virtual world or the fully immersive environment. So for example, what you've got here is the Oculus, where you can actually engage in the virtual reality using hands, little handset type of things. Or on the cheaper side, that's your Google Cardboard, so your MR, so your mobile virtual reality, MVR, sorry. And this is usually what you see in classrooms where you've got the slightly cheaper environment where you can use your phone. So what I'm looking at is that continuum. So mixed reality is just an easier term to use, but when I talk about it, I'll generally say this is an AR, this is a VR. So on the continuum, we usually have these things like AR apps. So down the bottom, here is an example of an AR app where you have some flashcards and you take your mobile device over it and something will appear. In this case, it was actually an application created by one of my students to learn phonetic sounds of the alphabet. And so those are my 2 kids, by the way. And slowly you get this to the other side, which you've got the true immersive environments where you have things like jumping over too quickly. So you've got your immersive headset and your handsets. I don't really have any examples, and usually in examples that I use myself in the classroom, and student creative, fully immersive environments are really hard. So So for example, they'll be using things like Steam and Vibe, which require a lot of coding. So I usually don't focus on that, though. Having said that, I did work on a research project where students created their own fully immersive environments, which was a game. But I'm not going to be focusing on this for this example. Though I will be looking at virtual worlds. So virtual worlds is where you have a virtual reality environment, but usually it's not fully immersive. So you engage. So for example, Minecraft is an example of a virtual world where students can go in and collaborate with each other. We're actually going to be creating our own virtual world using CoSpaces. But that is actually using 360-degree photos to create that. And then we've got AR on the other side where you have object recognition. So that's my continuum, and we're going to be looking at examples of those as we go through. So while we're here, great. So I think there might be, I don't think I actually deleted my test, so you might have to ignore those 2 questions. So have you or your institution started exploring some form of AR, VR, or that mixed reality in your classroom? So if you go back to your response poll, so pollev.com/mobileme, hopefully that screen will appear and you can actually tell me where you have got in your classroom. So either you don't see any benefits, or you're not interested, yes, but only in a limited way, or yes, and you're using quite a bit. So it looks like we've got some people in this room that have used it in quite a lot of different ways in their classroom, and that might be through the education in a limited way. Great. So not sure if I can get numbers in here. I've just got percentages. So thank you. Okay, so it looks like we've got quite a few people in this room that have probably engaged in AR and VR, and probably maybe more than I have. So it's going to be quite interesting to see your opinions. So I will be pausing towards the end of this section, and well, I'll give you a chance to talk about what you actually have done. But that's good to hear there's some people that have done quite a bit. So moving on. So get my screen. There we go. So I'm just going to start talking about the affordances. So the reason why I'm looking at AR and VR specifically for educational purposes is because I see them as offering a unique set of abilities or features that allow teachers to use them in the classroom. And when I say the classroom, I'm talking about from children, young children, children in preschool, though to a certain degree. Even though my student created that app, I would be talking more around a little bit higher up, older, because I want them to create their own experiences. So primary school, secondary school, so pre-K type of thing, and then in university as well. So these tools that I'm looking at are things that are age open. So affordances are things that in the environment that give you the potential to do something. So affordances can be looked at in terms of functional affordances. So what this technical object can do to allow you to do something. So for teachers, what can a AR and a VR tool allow you to do that you would not otherwise be possible, or maybe not necessarily impossible, but enhance the experiences. So functional affordances are generally what we're looking at here that allow a user to do something in the classroom, so with those unique aspects. So looking at this idea of mixed reality, and specifically AR and VR, I have identified really 4 key affordances that it provides, and some of them are specific to AR, some of them are specific to VR. So for example, the one at the bottom, but generally they are to some degree an affordance in both aspects. So I'm just going to talk about them in a minute, but AR and VR allow you to contextualize information, allows you to visualize 3D and the invisible. It can also be social and allow you to engage with each other. And in the case of AR, it allows you to bring that experience into a physical location. For VR, it allows you to bring them into an environment that's virtual. So you've got that continuum in that example. So I'm just going to quickly run through some of those affordances, and I'll ask you at the end if there's anything that you think might be missing from my affordance list. So looking at the visualization of 3D and invisible. So augmented reality or virtual reality, generally you're engaging with digital content, and usually that digital content may be 3D. So in other words, you can manipulate an object and look at it from different angles. So for example, in a 3D book, a book that's augmented, you can actually see the digital content popping out, and you can engage in it. So for example, that's the flashcard. What popped out wasn't just the sound of the B or the or whatever. It actually had a little animation that popped out to make it a bit more engaging. So that was where, for example, in this example of AR, so this here is a physical thing I'm holding. It looks like this in real life. This is actually called a merge cube. And I've created a 3D object that maps on top of it. And this 3D object, if you can't recognize it, it's actually the coronavirus. And students can actually hold the coronavirus and engage in it into an interactive 3D. So there's that merge cube over there. So what the affordances are is that it allows a person to hold the physical thing in their hands, or if they don't have something like that, so they can actually see it and move around it in that 3D world, or a physical object. Affordance 2, it allows you contextualize information. So because you have, for example, a digital overlay of a real environment, or inside the fully immersive digital environment, you can actually overlay information. So that information might actually be 3D, or it actually might be multimedia. So for example, it could be a video, or it could be just some text. So you see that a lot in textbooks, where you might have for example, a book on the body, and that you could actually look at the blood flow, for example, that might pop up using your device. So it allows you to overlay technical information, for example. So if you were looking at a server, for example, you could have that digital overlay sort of help you engage with that real environment. So just examples that you might see. Here are some other examples that you might see, and these are ones, so these examples are things that I've created or my students have created in the research projects that I've been running. So for example, this over here is a maths trail. Someone else in this conference is also presenting on a math trail. So this is an example one. So this is not in the real environment. This is just my house. But at the school, there is this picture, and students need to go find that picture at reception, and they actually have to measure it and identify what that the area of the picture is. And if they get it right, they get a yes, or if they get it wrong, they've got a little bit of a video that they can watch to help diagnose and identify how to calculate the area. And so the point of this activity is where this is their first one, but then they go out and engage in the real environment and create their own maths exercises. And so the idea is that they go out and identify something, come back to the computer lab and use Metaverse in this case to create one, and then they share it with each other. This example is another one. This is what I actually used for my teacher training with some teachers. And this was during COVID. We actually went through an exercise of creating a virtual tour around Napier. Napier's in New Zealand, and Napier in New Zealand is well known for their Art Deco. So the activity is where each teacher in my group identified a location, Napier, and they set up an activity which you could answer a question. For example, this one, you actually had to go find the statue and then take a photo of the plaque to identify who actually created or sculpted this. So it's a way of allowing students, if they were to use this, to contextualize information. So for example, a real painting or a real environment, like for example, the statue. But it also, on the other hand, allows them to create it as well. So that's really what I'm looking at in a lot of my examples. So affordance number 4 of AR and VR is allow for that social and shared engagement. Usually this is around their engagement in the experience, but if you're extending that idea of creation, that can also be very much social and shared. But the idea of an augmented reality experience where students, for example, go back onto that Geo Tour example, they can actually engage with it together. But same thing as if they, for example, looking at a AR experience around learning about planets, for example. So they can use there's an example from MergeCube where you can actually see the planets circling around the sun, and you can do that collaboratively because people can see the screen. In VR, it's a little bit harder to do the socially or as a collaborative experience, but there are examples. So for example, if you think about virtual worlds, there are some tools out there that allow you to collaboratively engage in the virtual environment, like Minecraft allows you to. And I've got a group of students that one of the teachers I'm working with, and he's using Minecraft to teach Japanese culture. So he's a Japanese teacher, obviously, and they're actually creating a Japanese city. That image there is not what the students have created, but it's very similar to what he couldn't actually provide me with something that I could have used for this session. But if you go into that, you'll actually find that there is other people who have done something very similar, and this is their image. So the idea of using Minecraft is that students create their own little city, Japanese city, and then what they do is, as a group, go into these cities and engage with each other and to learn some of those customs and ideas. And so you could do that in many different types of examples. So for example, in New Zealand, Māori culture is it's the indigenous culture. And you could, for example, go into Minecraft and engage in going up to a marae, which is a house that's a meeting house that Māori use. So social and shared engagements is another affordance of both AR and VR. VR to a degree, the idea of that might be where you're collaborating in the shared environment, or you collaborate to create that shared environment. The last affordance, and I know I've got my numbers wrong, but this is the number 4, is AR in terms of portability. And then we've got the virtual reality one. So Sorry, I've got them the wrong way around. So virtual reality allows you to bring someone into an environment. Okay, so that difference where you can create a virtual reality experience and bring someone in and engage in that. So usually you might be creating an environment that a student can't go to. So for example, in Google Expeditions, you can create a 3D, you can go with your students on a 3D experience. 3D experience of going under the water and looking at fish. And that's using 360-degree photos, and you can actually take them through this expedition. You can also do this as a physical tour. So for example, this activity here is something I created for some students, and the students were going to a landfill and learning about the landfill because their topic was around sustainability. And before they went to this field trip, I actually created a 360-degree virtual field trip for them, so they could learn about that environment before they actually went on it. And so that allowed them to get an idea of some of that pre-knowledge. And there was a little bit of an activity around, thinking about for them, what did they want to learn based on that experience. So this experience was created using CoSpaces. The reason why it looks a bit funny is because it's actually being viewed in a Google headset. So it's actually that split view, but you can actually view it on your screen as well, your computer screen. So if you put it into that Google Cardboard, you can actually look around and click on things to engage. Sorry, got my slides a little bit confused. Okay, so once you think about virtual reality, the other side is augmented reality. So the idea of bringing the person to the location and engaging in, so that portability of that environment. And so there are many different examples of that. So for example, like the game-based learning, for example, a Pokemon-esque type of environment. But for example, on the same theme of before, where the students had that pre-experience with the 360-degree virtual tour, when they actually, excuse me, Siri's talking, what next happened when they actually went to the field trip is I created an augmented reality experience for them. So they could actually, when they're on the field trip, they actually engaged in some questions and learned a little bit more about that. And this was on top of someone talking to them about it. So some of that instructions might be, for example, some of the answers in their AR experience, or there, for example, there was a few posters up on the site. So if they read that, they could find the answers. And so this was actually a collaborative group activity where they went around and engaged in that environment. So those are some of the affordances that I've picked out particularly, and how I've built them into the different ways that I've used AR and VR. However, there might be other activities or examples that you have used in your own context. So what I'm going to do is, we're sort of towards the end of this session, but I just want to take a bit of a stop and see what other people are thinking around activities. So any activities or examples that you would like to share in your own context that fall under those affordances or on other affordances. So anyone would like to share, you can put it into the chat if you don't want to use your mic, but is there anything that you've actually used in your own? Yes, and please feel free to turn on your mics and your video as well. It's interesting to see faces as well. So is there anyone would like to share? Feel free to add. David, do you want to share?
Oh, that's it. Put me on the spot.
You've popped up first, so.
Yes, I was just going to see, Ramesh, I see you've put something into the chat. Would you like to explain what it is that you put in there?
Thank you, David and Kathryn. This is about a Mughal emperor tomb in New Delhi, Ghayasuddin, we created. And in this video, yeah, there are two things here. I think if we can scroll, one is Mahatma Gandhi Ashram also. Can check it, and there are certain contact points you can keep on clicking, and then it will take you inside the tomb, and we can see inside the dome and the grasslands inside it. So we used it for our history students, and that was quite interesting for them to see. You can just keep on
I'm not sure if I'm doing this
visualizing.
right.
Yes.
Okay, what I might do is see, move up. Okay. So if I click on the point, it should have let me in.
Yes, keep on clicking. There are, I think, 8, 9 points of different stages.
Might be my computer. It doesn't seem to let me click. I managed to do it fine for the first one, so I'll see if I can. Okay. So what tool did you use to create this? I might just refresh.
Yeah, we used different apps for that, and one was we used this 360-degree camera also for us.
Great.
You can see, and with this gyro.
Just exit VR.
That will yes, you can try.
Yeah, sorry, I can't seem to click on them anymore, but thank you.
But I don't know, it was working properly.
Yeah.
And there is one more I would like to share. This is the 360-degree image of Wawasan Open University in Malaysia, where I was teaching. This is, I created it with my own mobile phone using Google Street View app.
Cool.
This is the building in which I was residing, that tall building. This is Open University of Malaysia. The white portion is the, means if you see this yellow statue in the left corner, he is the honor of this person who came from China, means empty-handed, but through his hard work, and then he became the richest person in Penang, in Malaysia. It was his residence. And his final will was that my property be used either for health purposes or for education purposes. So the family decided to open a open university there. So this is how. And at the back, we had our own beach. This is Andaman Sea. At the back, behind the trees. So there. And there are some other also which I created. Means they are not that good because I changed my phone, and then the gyro sensor was not working properly. And the hidden prize is someone who can find my shoe.
Easter egg in there. Great. Thank you. So those are two good examples of a 360-degree photo. So this one using Google Street View. So you can, I'll actually talk about that actually a little bit later, because you can create your own, or you can use some really good tools to create the camera. So you can see if you're using Google Street View, sometimes you get these corners. Actually, you don't have any. I thought that's a pretty good photo actually for 360 degrees. Sometimes you get these little lines in it, whereas if you've got a camera, it won't make any lines. And you can use tools from previous example, a session, Google Builder, Google Tours Builder will allow you to create that. CoSpaces will allow you to do that, and I'll show you how to do that later in the session. So, but there are many others. So SeatBeak is also another tool if you want. Great, thank you. Anyone else? Sorry.
Just to say about one thing that I think is interesting that Ramesh has sort of brought to the fore here is that although there's a distinction between, if you like, virtual reality and virtual tours, of course, they're on a continuum. There's still some of the same affordances in just having a virtual tour. And of course, if we talk about Tour Builder, you can have a tour and you can look at it as a tour, or you can view it in a fully immersive Google Expedition. And I think it's interesting that there are those different layers, and that you can it kind of gives that entry level as well, doesn't it? You don't have to have everybody with a headset or even a mobile device to get some of those affordances of virtual experiences. So thanks for highlighting that, Ramesh. It's very helpful.
Yeah, we created this a tour for Mahatma Gandhi Ashram in India, Wardha. So it shows it. We have included, means if we play on the song, then the favorite song. It was actually morning prayer by Mahatma Gandhi. That will be there, and then the images of various things inside that. And in fact, we had created a book for our school students also using Sizzle and integrating Google Map, those 3D for desert and Himalaya, those things also. So I mean, these are the initial efforts. We used our own money to purchase the equipment also. That way. It may not be perfect, but we did something for our students.
Have you started to explore how students can create their own? So I mean, you said about equipment probably being a bit of an issue, but so these are ones that you've created for students. Have
Yes.
they? Yeah.
Yeah, actually, these were used for teacher educators for the we are giving them the training and involving them in creating the projects.
Cool.
But basically, the simplest is to teach them creating 360-degree images, because they can use their phone and Google Street View app. For these things, they need little extra equipment, either that Google Cardboard, which is means still that is expensive for students in that way. So we requested some of the schools to invest in some basic hardware so that they can be used.
Fantastic, thank you. Is there anyone else want to share some of the examples they might have used, or you don't have to show us, but any examples which you might have either yourself created or students created, or just used in terms of a bespoke application? Okay, so I'm going to give you more examples coming up. So I'll feel free to type them in if you want. I'm not sure if anyone is, but while you're doing that, we might come back to it. But what I'll do is I'll just actually go to the next activity, because we can always come back to this sharing session in a minute and just give you some time to think. But what I'd like you to do is if there are any other affordances, so I've already mentioned 4, so you're more than welcome to add them again, but are there any other affordances that you think are relevant to education in terms of the affordances of AR or VR? So once again, this is just an activity, so go to polev.com and you can go /MobileMe or enter MobileMe. So it should automatically appear. Hopefully this works. David, I'm sure you're busily typing this in, and you should be able to type something in. So is it working, David?
Yes, I can see it. Yes. Did you want me to type something in?
Yeah, type something in.
I've got to think of a new affordance.
Yeah, come on. You're more than welcome to just reuse the other ones. So just to see if it works. So if there is anything else.
Okay, let me put something in. I'll try and maybe look at it a slightly different perspective.
I'm sure we had lots of other affordances in our last presentation.
Yes, we did. Okay, well, I'll pick one, shall I?
I've just pulled out ones that are most relevant to this one. So there must be other things. So it looks like we've got some results. I can't see them though for some reason. So normally they'll just appear.
Yeah, it should be
Oops.
underneath.
Okay. What I might do is I might just go to it quickly and actually see. Sorry. I did have it logged in. I can't seem to find the answers. Apologies, everyone.
Let me just, oh, I can share mine.
Yeah, can you share yours, please?
Yes, just bear with
I
me.
see there's 4 results, so.
Oh, okay. Can I see those though? Hang on. Maybe I can only
What about
see.
your browser window? Are you there?
Okay, I might be able to see it here.
Yeah, I can't see everybody else's, just my own.
No. Okay. Well, this was a fun example.
Well, so I typed in embodied cognition.
Okay.
Which.
And I typed formative assessment.
Okay, cool. In what way? In what kind of formative assessment do you think is sort of enabled by AR and VR tools?
Say, for example, if we want to see the understanding of our students, say just this visit to the tomb, and then we can ask them that, okay, comment on the architecture of that era, because the Mughal dynasty, they have been in the Indian subcontinent for a very, very long time, and means including Taj Mahal, which is considered as one of the 7 wonders of the world. Those things. So we can, we can show it to, you can get them involved into it, and then make our questions for their understanding on that basis.
Do you think it's suitable for summative assessment?
Hmm?
Do you think it would be suitable for summative assessment as opposed to formative?
Yes, it can be used for summative assessment as well. We tried it for formative only because of the time factor, because in summative, there are few things and then the, those evaluation strategies, processes, they come. So that way, it takes longer time in having it. So, but I agree with you that it means perfect. It can be tested for summative as well.
Cool.
Yep. I mean, you can embed some of that assessment inside it. So, for example, some of the tools like, for example, Metaverse, you can actually just refresh. No, it's not showing it to me. So sorry, I got distracted by a comment. So the idea is that you can actually get students to answer questions inside their environment. So the ARs could actually be a quiz, or for example, when you're going through that 360-degree tour, you could actually have little quizzes embedded into the side it. So, but sometimes it's an external activity that they might do. So it might actually lead them to an activity, or the activity itself is that experience. For me, a lot of the time, the creation of that experience is actually the artifact, therefore the assessment. So, for example, if they were creating an AR experience, they might have to code some of that. So therefore, I'd be marking that code, or the teacher in this case. So there is the artifact as an outcome, as well as some of the knowledge that they've built into it. So it actually is summative and formative. It depends on how you actually design that the usage of the AR and VR. So Helga says multidisciplinary learning and contextualization. Definitely. Helga, do you want to comment on those?
Yes.
In terms of the multidisciplinary learning, I mean, it's ideal where you would get a group, say a topic in a school specifically, which would overlap, say, for instance, history and geography and science, you know, and take the students out into the environment. They can visit the village and they can look at all the different, you know, aspects and take pictures and bring that back into the class, their own virtual reality with that. The one possibility, and then the other one is contextualization, which would be also understanding the content of what they are learning within the environment. So they could take their book knowledge and what they've read in their books and go and look at it outside, but also at the same time prepare for maybe another class and take pictures outside and bring it into the class. So these are the different affordances that both of these, virtual and augmented and even mixed, I believe, are possible.
Great. Thank you, Helga. While you're doing that, I was definitely listening, but I was also just showing the results. So we've got formative assessment, contextualization, embodied cognition. Okay. David, do you want to talk about that one? I don't know if you've talked about that one.
No, I mean, I guess it's that whole idea of what you're doing and how you're interacting is part of your understanding. And so it can apply to both VR and AR. So for example, in VR, it might be those situations where, you know, you've got those more sophisticated environments where you've got those controllers, for example. So, you know, you become embodied in that environment. So your learning in that virtual world is actually you participating in it rather than just kind of looking at it. And of course, when you're using AR, depending on the sort of nature of the AR, again, there can be that aspect of, you know, your embodiment, your activity is part of the learning process. I think that probably depends on whether the AR is just the kind of, you know, floating around AR things that some of the tools do, where it's not really engaging with the space, as opposed to those where what you're doing is in fact directly related to the physical environment that you're moving through. So I think that's the embodied cognition thing is, you know, to what extent does this particular AR or VR experience offer you a sort of physical engagement with the learning, as opposed to just sort of the looking engagement, which of course some of the simpler tools provide, which isn't really giving you that embodied cognition.
And that's a really important point you make around AR being engaging with the environment. So probably something I hadn't quite sort of picked out a little bit with my examples of that continuum, where you could have an AR experience. I'll just quickly go back to this one. So an AR experience that doesn't engage in a real environment, where you are just you know, separated from the environments. Whereas if you have AR experience that actually recognizes real objects or engages in that real environment. So for example, back to the geo tours, is when you're actually in a location, that experience pops up. Or if you're actually looking at an object and it recognizes that object. So there's a little bit more engagement, and that engagement might be artificial, or it might be fully engaged using, for example, computer vision to identify, or geolocation to identify. But those are where you're getting a little bit more that real environment interacting with that digital content versus just an overlay. It doesn't really matter where you are. So how you design it will make a difference. So anyone else like to add? I don't think we've got any other comments on here, which worked really well.
Excellent.
Excellent.
I thought test was a particularly useful response there.
Yeah, well, that was me, so I'll cop to that one. Okay. So feel free to add them, and thank you, Ramesh, giving us another example of a research group and a virtual museum. So that sort of is that in opener of points that I was just mentioned, where I wanted to just talk about what AR and VR, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. The next part of today's workshop is now looking at some tools that we can use to create our own or student created AR and VR experiences. So I know that we've been sitting here for an hour, so chatting. So does, I'm not sure if we want a quick break before I move into the next section of today's topic, or else I'll a quick break. Good. All right. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause 15 minutes, if that's okay. And that then we can actually start looking at some tools. If you don't want to pause for 10 minutes and you want something to actually do, if you go to the top, if you're here a bit later, feel free to download these apps, so the Metaverse and the CoSpaces. And while you're waiting, you can look at the examples that are already uploaded in Metaverse. So if you go to the Metaverse website and CoSpaces, you'll be able to see the gallery to get an idea. So if you don't want to just twiddle your thumbs for 10 minutes, you can look at that. So 10 minutes, cool. Come back soon. All right, sweet. All right, so according to my clock, that will be 3 minutes past the hour, and we'll start. So I'm just going to
Well, that's
close my video. Sorry?
So that's 5 minutes. Did you mean 5 minutes or 10 minutes?
Sorry, can't count. 7 minutes past. Oh, well, I've talked to 5 minutes. Sorry, excuse us. David and I do a lot of workshops together, so you've probably seen that. We work really well together, I'm sure. So we'll stop for 10 minutes, so 7 minutes past, okay? And if you need to go for longer, remember this is recorded anyway. But the next section is actually having a look at some of these tools, and then the last bit is actually creating your own. So 10 minutes pause, okay? So 7 minutes past, and we'll be back. So I'm just going to mute my camera, just because I am going to go and grab a quick cup of drink that's cold now. So thank you.
Thanks, Kathryn. I'll just pause the recording.
Thank you. All right, are we starting? Cool. All right. Welcome back. I've got my warm cup of tea now rather than a cold one. So as I said, first half we just looked, quarter, we just looked at AR and VR and the affordances. And now we're going to get into the major part of it, which is the tools. Okay, so the tools that I'm going to actually be talking about and introducing is actually tools that I'm using for a research project that I'm running. So I have a research project. So I probably should clarify, I'm not actually a secondary or primary teacher. I work at Canterbury inside our department of teacher education. And I have some work with some secondary teachers. So this is a research project supported by TLRI, which is the Teaching and Learning Research Initiative in New Zealand. And they are supporting me working with 2 high schools in Napier. That's why one of the examples was based in Napier, and looking actually not at the DT teachers, which is the digital technologies teachers, so the ICT teachers, but actually subject teachers, in particular the STEM teachers, and looking at how do we integrate the new areas of the New Zealand curriculum. So in New Zealand, we've re-looked at the digital technologies area inside the curriculum and redeveloped it around better integrating digital technologies into the curriculum across the curriculum. So the idea is that we want to well, New Zealand wanted to integrate digital technologies where it's supporting students creating their own experiences, not just consumers of digital technologies. but also strengthening things like computational thinking and logic. So there's two parts to the curriculum areas that have been developed, which is around designing their own experiences, and then around computational thinking, which is like programming and logic and algorithms and all that, the technical side of technology. So the idea of this is that the curriculum starts at year 0, so primary up to high school. And so it's about embedding digital technologies throughout, and where we now start getting students in primary schools to start creating and programming to a certain degree as well. So this is with secondary teachers, so looking at them. So the project is help training these teachers to use these technologies and start identifying how they can be used in the STEM subjects, or STEM actually, because there is English teachers, for example, in this paper, as well as Japanese as well. So why did I choose mixed reality or AR VR for this project? So the idea was to start integrating digital technologies. It's not necessarily mixed reality technologies, but for this project, I've wrapped it around mixed reality because of the affordances that we've just talked about. So the idea of that blend between the two environments is about bringing students into a location or better engaging in a physical location, and that's what you can do with mixed reality. Also, I've chosen it because the tools are getting a lot more sophisticated, where students can create their own experiences. They might not be fully immersive, but they can actually scaffold quite nicely to support some really intricate and sophisticated experiences. So it allows you to get those ideas around the computational thinking, as well as allowing them to design and develop their own outcomes. And a lot of these tools are accessible. So all the tools that I use are accessible. So they're cloud-based. For example, a lot of the students in these schools only have Chromebooks, so they can't actually download software, so that they're cloud-based. They run on a device. It doesn't have to be a cell phone device, but iPads, for example. So they run on things that already a lot of students have. However, the project also did include some funding to purchase some additional accessories. So for example, I did purchase a 360-degree camera for them. So though you can create your own 360-degree photos using Google Street View, as we mentioned before, but you can actually use a 360-degree camera to do it yourself, and there's some really cheap ones on the market as well, so you don't have to get the GoPro type of thing to create these. All right, so that's what. So the focus of the tools that I've selected are things that underpin the philosophy of that digital curriculum areas. So it's about purposeful integration of the technology. So it's not just technology for technology's sake. It's not just playing. It's about having a purpose. So generally the purpose is to design it. So getting some of that computational thinking embedded into them actually developing. And therefore not just consuming the technology. And the project is around exploring the innovative practice, so looking at in new ways where you can take these tools that are very versatile and can work for, you know, very young to very old, and can actually be applied in different ways inside different subject areas as well. So we wanted people to just have a go, have a play, and not have to worry about the risks. So it was just innovative, a little bit of a play, using with students, seeing where it fit, and also very much where it doesn't fit as well. We want to learn that as well. So the focus of the research project is about teachers, but a lot of the time it's around how we use it in the classroom. So this is really where the workshop comes from, is some of the things that we've been doing in this project, and I just wanted to share them with you. So I'm going to sort of talk about some of the tools that we're using, and demonstrate how they have been used. And then in the last part of today's workshop, you'll get an opportunity to actually create your own using Metaverse or CoSpaces. It's up to you. So if you were in the last session, I've already introduced Metaverse, and I mentioned a bit briefly in the beginning. So Metaverse is an AR tool. If you go to the website, so if you just Google a Metaverse, you'll go to it, or this is the studio landing page. The website, you'll see that it's a tool where you can create an augmented reality experience. So there are many things you can do. There's many modules that you can incorporate. It doesn't actually require a student to program as such, but it does require a little bit of understanding around how things flow. So that logic of a yes or no if type of approach. Also, it can be quite sophisticated. So, for example, you can integrate computer vision, so the Google API, to identify an object, and I'll explain what that means later, because we've got an example. So, Google Street View, we're actually not going to use it unless you want to, or else you can just use existing 360-degree photos. But if you want to take your own 360-degree photos, there is the app where you can take 360 degrees, just like Ramesh showed us in terms of the examples he took. So CoSpaces, on the other hand, is an AR and a VR tool. Probably what I should mention is Metaverse is completely free, so you can use it. The problem with CoSpaces is that you actually have to pay for it if you want the full version of it. So there is a free version, but the code that you can integrate into it and the merge cube doesn't come with it. However, part of this workshop, I've got a code that you can use that will give you a 30-day trial of how to get into CoSpaces, and you get a fully functioned teacher environment, which gives you merge cube as well. So merge cube's this thing I'll talk about in a second, but usually I don't promote non-free applications, but I found CoSpaces, because of that ability to have the AR and VR creation of experiences, it's really a neat tool. So the merge cube is this, which is, as you can see, I'm not sure if you can see it quite well on my screen, but it's basically the QR code on a very soft box. However, rather than buying it, because you can buy it from your local shop, you can actually create your own. Okay, so the link that you've got there, which David's just popped in the chat, is a paper-based one. So if you print that out, put onto cardboard and cut it out, it will work just as well as this. Though slightly smaller. So if you can work out how to zoom it up to a bigger screen, it actually works really well. So that is Merge Cube. So Merge Cube has its own tool. So if you go to mergecube.com, there's many different apps that you can download. And so, for example, one of them, which is what I mentioned previously about the world, so the planet, sorry. So you can actually download an app where you can actually see the planets circling around the sun, and you can click on them and learn about the different planets. There's also one where you can look inside a person's body. So there's some really neat pre-made experiences with Merge Cube. However, reason why I'm telling you about Merge Cube is because you can create your own using CoSpaces. So if you have CoSpaces as a full version, you can export it to Merge Cube so you can see it and play with it. So that's why I'm talking about it. Cool. So they are really awesome tools. All right, so let's have a look at some examples. So the first example, and so these examples are what you get to choose at the end of today's session, where you can create your own. So I've identified 3 examples of metaverse and co-spaces and the merge cube that really illustrate some of its real key affordances, and I've tried to connect them to a subject area, but what I want you to do is just get an idea of this. So the first activity is metaverse and Google Vision. So this is a little simple application that I've created, and it's around Te Reo Māori. So if you don't know Te Reo, that's fine. I'll give you the answers. But basically, using Metaverse and using the Google Vision API inside Metaverse, you can actually identify objects. You can also identify text as well. So there's a text recognition tool inside that as well, just through the API. But what you do in this one is the idea is in Metaverse, you take scan this code and you can use it. And what I'll do is I'll just show you it actually. So okay, I'll just give myself access, participants, and I'm just going to share my mobile camera quickly. So you'll have to be shocked by an awful video of my face. Okay, hopefully we will see it. Let's see. Actually, maybe what I need to do is stop sharing here and see if I can do it. Okay, so I've got myself. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so it's not letting me share my screen. I promise I've tried this at home. So I might just give myself a host access. What I might do is just make myself a co-host, sorry. Just bear with. Okay, I'm going to then go to my screen. Hopefully you will see it shortly.
Yay.
Okay, whee, it worked. Okay, so there is my screen. Okay, I'm going to go to Metaverse. All right, and scan the QR code. So it was very quick, so that I just did it on there. So this is that little activity. Okay, and as you can see, if I move around the room, I've got my little man. Okay, and it says look around the room and take a photo of a portai, puka puka, and a mohiti. Okay, and if you don't know what that is, I'm just going to quickly go and show on my computer the pictures. So I know you can't quite see it because the man's in the way. So hu is a shoe, a potai is a hat, a puka puka is a book, and a mohiti is a pair of glasses. So I have got the photos there, but I've actually got a physical object as well here, and I'll just show you how it works. So I'm going to click on mohiti, and I now can take a photo of my glasses and see if it recognizes that. All right. And fingers crossed. Yes, I'm so clever. Okay, so this is basically how it works with the tool. All right, so this is the first activity that you can do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing so you can try it yourself and you can use the photos. Stop share. Cool. I think stop video. All right, so I'm just going to go back and share my screen. Sorry. Okay, all right, so if you can, if you've got Metaverse, have a go. You're more than welcome to use the preset photos, but if you happen to have the objects in your room, go try it with a real object. The issue with the book, okay, it's not as good to identify books for some reason. Generally, if you open the book and you take a picture of the book open, it'll recognize it, but have a go and see if that works. So I'm just going to pause for 2 minutes and let you have a go at that. If you've got any questions, issues, let me know and pop them in the chat.
Okay, I've just shared that on Slack just to inspire everybody else. I'll just pause that recording while everybody's having a go.
Okay. So anyone got any comments? Did it work? Did it not work? David's worked. He had evidence.
Mine worked.
Awesome. Great. I'm glad that it worked. So, so this is one activity you can try at the end. Okay, so you can create your own version, and obviously you don't have to do the Te Reo version. Just use any English as well. So it could be, you know, find a certain sign or something like that. Okay. Moving on. So the next one is creating an interactive quiz using the merge cube. So remember, you don't have the merge cube, or if you haven't printed it out, okay, so it's not a problem. You can still create it, and then you can print it out and test it. So this is an activity that I created for the students actually work through when they're doing health. And so this little activity is a health quiz on different cereals. So they have to determine, based on the ingredients of the cereal, if it's a cereal that you eat every day, or not so every day, or don't eat it very often. Okay, and I can't quite remember what the options were. So I'm just going to show you that on my phone. Okay, so bear with while I share. Okay, my screen. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm out. I'm going to go now. So this one is the CoSpaces app. Okay, so with the CoSpaces app, at the top you've got that little hand with the sort of ... So if you click on that, it allows you to type in the code. The code is on my screen, or I can scan a QR code, and that's just what I'm going to just show you now. So if I go, so that's the example, and there's the code. You can see it immediately identifies it. Okay, so go away. Oh dear, why is it showing? Never trust computers. Oh, there we go. All right, sorry. All right, so the nutritional quiz, I'm just going to play it and just show you how it works. Okay, so the merge cube is here. Oops, it's upside down. Okay, there you go. So this is my 3D object, and if I click on, so you can see there's a little, it's very faint, but there's a little dot there. If you click on the dot, that's your pointer. Okay, so it allows you to click. All right, so there is my, click on the information panel to read the nutritional information. Okay, so these are the questions. Would you choose to eat this most often, sometimes, and least often? So I need to actually click on it because I can't read it. And as you can probably see, it's a little bit small on my phone. Okay, so the information I'm looking for is the sugar. So in this one, it's 12 grams, and the calories, I think. I'll just check which one I'm actually looking for. Oh, I don't know. One of the two. It'll tell me actually what I'm looking for. And then if I just look at it, the ingredients list. So to be a good cereal, whole grain should be the first ingredient, whereas this one's sugar. So I'm guessing this is not a good food to eat. So now that I've seen the nutritional facts, I'm going to say guess it's most often. Okay, can see that's not right. And its hint, go back to nursery tool and check the following. So is the whole grains the first? Are there 2 grams or more of fiber? So it's fiber and sugar, okay? So I can go back and look at it, but for this one, I know that's least often, okay? So there we go. All right, and this is why we need to eat it. Sorry, my buttons. There we go. And so I can do that with a few others. So this is my total cornflakes. I can do the same thing, okay? And there's a few more as well, okay? So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and give you a few minutes to have a quick go at it. You don't have to do this on your phone, okay? If you go to that link, okay, you will also be able to just view it on your computer without your merge cube, okay? So I'm just going to exit my screen and reopen the other one. Okay, where is it? So I'm just going to reshare my desktop, and I'll just.
I've popped that URL.
Oh, thank you, David. So David's already popped the URL. Oopsie, sorry.
Sorry, I was busy on Slack as well. It's very, very stressful.
All right. You're a very good assistant. Thank you. All right, so have a go. So if you click on that URL, it will just take you to it where you can play it on your screen. So you don't need the merge cube. So it's probably the easier way now that you probably don't have a merge cube in front of you. So you just press play and you can see it. So if you just go down here, you can see the activities that I've created. Okay, so all bran as well and Rice Krispies, but that's cheating. You can't just jump down. You have to actually go through them and also automatically take you through. So this is your second activity. If you would like to have a go at that one at the end of today's session. So you can create your own. So this is with the CoSpaces app using the Merge Cube module where you can look at it. Okay. So I might pause a few seconds and let you have a go. With the phone, it can be a little bit more tricky to engage in it. So you have to think about how big your objects are and how big your buttons are. I haven't had any problems with the CoSpaces if you just view it on your screen, but I mean, the point of it is actually with AR is to actually hold it in your hands. Okay.
So just to be sorry, Kathryn, I may have not been listening. I was busy. So I can see that in my browser, no problem. If I want to do it on my phone, is it that QR code that's on the screen?
Yes, but the problem is if you want to do it on your phone, you do need the cube to show it against. Sorry, but the next one you can. You don't need the cube. So that was my third and final example. That's why I had to ask you to download CoSpaces.
Oh, good.
Cool. Okay, so what I might do is I might look at the next one. Okay, so remember you do have a chance to play with this at the end anyway. Okay, so let's move on. Cool. All right, so the next one is creating a simple geo tour. So CoSpaces allow you to create that 360-degree tour that you saw, for example, previously by Ramesh. And what you can do with CoSpaces is that you can actually code and develop the program behind it. So you can put it in characters and let them do stuff and ask questions, for example. Whereas some of the tools like, for example, Google Tour Builder, it does all the coding behind the linking. So this is a really good tool that allows you to create a geospace, geotour, a virtual tour, I should say, but allows you to do some really more intricate interactions around it. So I've actually got two examples here. The first one is a Munich city tour. So the Munich city tour is a one that you can actually just search for in the gallery. And the second one is one that I created for the students going onto the landfill. Okay, so you've got two options there. So what I might do is I might just show you the landfill one, and you're more than welcome to have a look at either. I haven't given you the link though, so I'll tap it out in a bit. But let me just show you what it looks like on the phone. Okay, so screen. Sweet. Okay, so back into CoSpaces. Okay, so I'm still in this one, so I'm just going to exit out. Okay, and now I'm going to go and scan that one, the tour. And once again, it's come up with my box, so I might just close that and open it again. That seemed to work. So the issue with sorry, this is not the GeoTour one that I did with the students. So that's actually the example. So what I might actually do is I might actually go to the Munich one instead, because that's just the example that you'll do in the exercise. It's very basic. It's not as exciting to show you it. All right, so sorry, let me just go back out. There we go. Now I can play. So with the Munich tour, you can if you move around your camera and it doesn't move around, just click on that little picture of a spinning, and that'll allow it to move around. If it doesn't work, it might be that your phone doesn't have a gyroscope, so you'll actually have to just use your finger to move it around. So you can see it's turned blue. When it's blue, it moves around. Okay, I can also put it into, can you see it? Yeah, just down the bottom of your screen, of the screen is the Google Cardboard picture. Okay, so if you click on that, you can see if I turn around, you can actually put it into your headset like David is, okay, and actually see it in a 360-degree way. Okay, so the idea is that the problem is if you've got a Google Cardboard, it's a bit harder to click on objects, but it should work. So I'm just actually going to go out of the heads seat mode. So I'll just take that off so you can actually. Okay, come on. I want to stop my split screen. Okay. Oh, there we go. I did have it there. So you can see here, okay, where you can click on things, or at least should be able to click on things. It's not actually letting me, so I'll just, so one of these will allow me to eventually click. I don't know why. See if you can. I think it was from me changing to the different views. Let's see if I can do this. Okay. Oopsie. So have a look. You can see there's actually characters in there doing things. Okay. And so that's what you can have them going to different locations. For some reason, this one's not letting me click onto the different locations. What I might do is I might stop this and just show you on my normal screen, because it's probably making you a bit sick because I keep on jerking around. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly show you on the actual computer. So I'm going to share screen. Okay. Okay, so that's the geo tour. Okay, so I'm just going to go out of this. And if you go to CoSpaces, it's not that one. All right, so actually I'll just go to I'll go find it for you. So bear with. All right, so unique city tour, there's that one. And you can play it, you can click on it. And so I should have been able to click on that and head inside, etc. So it wasn't quite working on my phone for some reason. Usually it does. I don't normally have an issue, but obviously when you demonstrate something, it never works. So that's a 360 degree, and behind all of those interactions, these you know, and animated objects as well, you can put them in, etc. Okay, so that's the 360 degree tour that you can do with CoSpaces. All right, so so the link will be for that example, or else you can just go and search for Munich tour as well. Okay, so that brings us into the last part. So what I might do is I'm not just explain to you what we're going to do next, and then we'll take a break. And then the last part will just be for you to have, we'll break up into breakout spaces. How many people are here, did you say, David?
Well, of course, it's quite late in the day for many, so we've kind of lost 1 or 2 people. So I think in terms of actual participants, 1, 2, 3.
I'm just wondering if we don't bother with a breakup space then. I think what we might do, I'll leave it open, okay? So what's, if you are wanting, you can actually link to one of the 3 examples, or do this at home later. I know that it's really late, as David pointed out. So I can share with these activities with you. You can actually go and do them in your own time. Maybe when you're a bit more on, bit more awake. Not to say that you're not awake. All right, so to get into it, there you just click on the bit.ly, or you type the bit.ly in, and David will share that shortly. So they will take you step by step how to create your own example. So that's the Google Vision app. So you have to go to Google's Metaverse Studio, and it will take you through the steps on how to create your own, in my case, a Tereo version, or whatever version application with Google Vision. There's a little bit of information about how the Google Vision API works. So there's a little bit of a video, a little activity which you can do. Sorry, I might actually just delete that just so in logo. Because this is the one I use for the students. What did the logo come up with? So you can actually download and try it out yourself to see how well they worked. Okay, so you can work through that one. The other example is using the merge cube. So once again, you can create your own merge cube. There's the link there. That's the example that you can scan on your phone. There is a video instruction. So though this is a pre-recorded video that I created, so some of the first bit information is not going to be relevant because they are directed at students. So to create the difference is that you have to create a teacher account. And so if you go to CoSpaces and sign up, you can then go into it, and when you log in, if you go to the profile, you can upgrade to Pro using this code, okay? And that will give you that 30-day free activity where you can invite other students. You can have 100 students in your class. You can have the merge cube as well. And then it just tells you how you can remix the nutritional quiz to create. So the student version one has only one cereal box. You're going to create the second cereal box. So it's got the Fruit Loops. You're going to create the total cornflake example. All right. If you would like to do this one, my suggestion is if you have a mouse, it's a little bit easier to manipulate and move around your screen with a mouse in CoSpaces. I use it on my laptop and I've got a touchpad, which works fine and because I'm used to it, but you might find it's a little bit tricky manipulating your screen using the touchpad if you've got a laptop. And the very last activity example is that 360-degree tour. So there's that tool example, that link to the Munich, and the idea of how you create your account. And what you're going to be doing is uploading 360-degree photos. And if you don't have any, you can take them from your phone. So there's a little bit of instructions how to take 360-degree photos using the Street View, or simply download them from Flickr. So Flickr has some free open examples that you can download and use. And so the idea is it shows you how to create the code to go to different scenes, etc. So it's a really simple example that allows you to create your own 360-degree tour. All right, so that's the options. So if you are wanting to wrap up, that's more than fine. But if you want to have a go, and I'll be available for any questions. But what we'll do is we'll stop the video, and the last part is just having a go, and let me know if you've got any questions. So I'll stay online. And so I just want to just wrap up properly. If you are going to leave at this point, thank you very much for your attention and your engagement in this workshop. As I said at the very beginning, I'm more than willing to provide the slides for this. Also, if you want a little bit more information around the research project that I'm doing, I'm happy to engage with anyone that's interested. You can reach me on my email. So as at Canterbury, so kathryn.macallum@canterbury.ac.nz. And I'd welcome any feedback as well if you've got anything. But the idea of what I'm doing with AI and VR is actually exploring the options. So if you've got some really neat ways that you are engaging in this, I'd love to hear. So get in contact, be great. So I'm just jumping to the chat. Cool, thank you, David. All right, sweet, thank you. So good to see some people I recognize. Hi, Aga. So I'm going to just go back up to the screen. And so if you want to have a go at these activities, or take a screen capture of those and come back to them at a later time, or just flick me an email and I'll send you them as well. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending. I really appreciate you taking the time out. I know that timeline and time zones can be a little bit hard. I see that Rick's come on. And Ramesh, I think it is. Hey, good to see you. I can see that it looks early.
Yeah. It is dark, so I have to, face my light this side.
So
Yes.
it's slowly getting lighter for us. So thank you. I appreciate the time everyone's taken.
I really appreciate it. Has been a wonderful, actually, because let me tell you, now it is 2:22 a.m., but I wanted to, participate. And David, I'm going to meet you tomorrow. My keynote is there at around 6 or something.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Look forward to it.
Thank you so much, and please take care. Yeah.
Great. And maybe I saw your link, so maybe we can keep in contact, Ramesh.
Yeah, sure.
Great. Thank you.
Bye, Dr. Hanbrook. Namaste, everyone. Thank you.
Kia ora.
Thank you very much. Great to have you here.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll wrap up the formal part of today's session, and David will stop the recording. So I'll leave the room open, and I will still be here. So if you've got any questions, if you are working with it, feel free to just pop a message in the chat, and I'll get back to you. And we can, if you want, but otherwise you're more than welcome to have a break. Thank you.
I'll stop recording now.
Thanks.